Hello. I wanted to talk today a little bit about eating disorders and disordered eating. It seems, I don't know, I'm seeing it all over the place. Everyone's on this diet or controlling what they eat. And the truth of the matter is that we don't need to. I mean, the body knows how to feed itself, it knows how to look after itself, but we get lost in these rules we set ourselves saying we can't eat this. So the body rebels back and it overdoes it on things, and it's just madness. I mean, I've been there myself. I used to struggle with bulimia for a while, and then this other thing called orthorexia, which is just being obsessed with all these different diets. And it's just unsustainable, and the internal dialogue that goes on when you're in that space, it's like, you're so mean to yourself. You're not good enough, you'll never be good enough, and you might have like a very flat belly, but it looks blown out of proportionally big in your mind because you're just being so overly critical of yourself. And nothing grows from that. We need to love ourselves. I say this time and time again, but we do. I mean, that is how we go when we learn to meet ourselves, we learn to love ourselves. That's how we become comfortable in life. That's how we become happy, and it's not smiling all the time. It's just learning to be with who we are, and the experience of life is so much more pleasant, but we just get lost in all these ideas. And I mean, it's all being, it's being sold to us, right? Any form of advertising is telling you you're not good enough unless you buy whatever is being sold. You need whatever is being sold in order to be whole, in order to be happy, and it is bullshit. And the same with body image. I mean, you look all over the place, even like all over Instagram, all over social media, all over magazines, newspapers. It's always these really skinny, beautiful ladies selling things, and it's like, that's not real. Bodies come in all different shapes and sizes. There is no one size fits all. There is no normal, and everybody has different needs. Some of us have intolerances to certain foods, and some of us don't. And some of us need more of certain types of foods than others, also depending on, how you live your life, what you're doing in your everyday life. And it's really, it really tires me to see this in other people, just how restrictive we can be, whereas we're saying, oh no, I don't want to be too big. And it's ridiculous. You're beautiful. What makes you beautiful isn't how you look like on the outside. It is how how you show up in the world, who you are. It's ridiculous. And it's terrible. I mean, okay, so lots of people might have this mild sense, of being on a diet all the time. But, if you're really deep in it, all you think about is food. I mean, I remember me, every waking moment of my life was obsessed with food, of trying not to eat it, or what should I eat, can I eat that will make it like that will keep me the skinniest, the least fashioning foods. And then I would go into trying out these different diets, right? I was like, went on the raw food diet, and I went on this candida diet, and all these things where you're just limiting all these. You're saying, no, I can't eat this, and I eat this. And the reality is we're animals, and if there's only so much we can control ourselves, really. And sooner or later, if you've been depriving yourself something, this uncontrollable urge is going to come out and like feast on whatever you've been saying you can't have. Or even if you go on like a super strict diet, often you'll come out of it and you'll just like binge on food and go back to square one. And it's this cycle. The body learns, okay, I'm not going to be given the food I need, so at any opportunity it gets, it like feasts to make sure it gets all those nutrients. And it's just like super imbalanced. Another thing I did actually is I became really obsessive with water fasting, and I just go on water fast all the time. But then, I wasn't, because it wasn't coming from the right place. I mean, there is a place for water fasting, but because it was coming from a place of trying to lose weight or whatever, I'd come out of it and I'd just like feast, which is super unhealthy in the body. If it hasn't had its digestive system going for a while and suddenly you feed it like a shit ton of food, it's like super shock and really not good for the body. So yeah, like you become obsessed. The internal dialogue going on is ridiculous. And then, I mean, health-wise, if you're depriving your body of nutrients, the nutrients it needs, and, that creates imbalances, it creates disease. And it's tiring and exhausting. I mean, sometimes it's about a thing of people wanting to control when so much is out of control in our lives, or it's wanting to be this idealized version of who we think we ought to be, or there's something else in there. It's gone. Anyway, you know, there's lots of different reasons why people get into these cycles, and you know, it's quite, you can get quite trapped in there. But the reality is, as I said at the beginning, body knows how to feed itself and knows how to eat for itself. But it's because we say no to things that we develop these disordered eating habits. So what it comes down to is learning to love ourselves. I know, I go back to this over and over again, but it is the truth. If you learn to, okay, there's something that you know intellectually you shouldn't be eating, well, allow yourself to eat it and see how it feels in the body, rather than saying, no, I don't want to eat this, and then when you eat it, not allowing yourself to fully experience it. And you can't, because then, you know, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to learn how things genuinely feel in the body. If we can just learn to, like, mindful eating, intuitive eating, really, because we're like eating so fast these days and not really being with the eating process. But if you can just be with your food and learn to feel how things feel in your body, innately you'll begin to recognize what food feels good in the body and what food doesn't feel good in the body. And innately you will eat in a healthy manner. And that doesn't mean eating the traditional, you know, sense of healthy all the time, you know? It's sometimes you will eat like the not all vegetables or whatever it is, but there's nothing wrong with that, you know? We're human and we're spiritual. But the human, you know, we're here on planet Earth, we're here to enjoy ourselves. But as soon as we start placing limitations, you know, I'm sure you remember as a child, you know, as soon as you're told not to do something, what you want to do, you want to do it. It's not how we function, you know, because even by saying don't do something, you're putting your attention and your energy towards that thing. So inevitably, that's where your focus is. So it's like, oh, I want to do it, I want to do it. And it is absolute madness. So yeah, really, intuitive eating is really, I can't recommend it enough. I mean, of course, there are nutritionists out there, and if you are going to play with your diet, talk to a professional. But I mean, it's really tiring when it takes over your life and it's all you think about. And often, this is what I forgot earlier, it's a reflection. It can be a reflection. You know, you're not very happy with your life, so it manifests in your eating habits and becoming obsessed with eating or not eating or uncontrollably eating. I mean, it works the other way. You know, this binge eating where we just get these uncontrollable urges to eat. I mean, can be linked or not necessarily linked to bulimia, where you then go and make yourself sick afterwards, and that's just a cycle that repeats in itself. And of course there's anorexia, which I'm sure many people are familiar with, and there are actually a whole bunch of other lesser known ones out there. But it's absolute madness, and it's tiring, and it's so mean to the self, you know. And just like, God, if we all could learn to love ourselves, you know, and in turn to love each other. I mean, love, love, love. I know it sounds like some hippie shit, or it might sound woo-woo, but it truly is so empowering if we can learn to love ourselves. If we can learn to make peace with ourselves, because you are the only person who has to deal with your internal dialogue, with the voice in your head. Nobody else hears it, so you might as well learn to be nice to yourself and have a nicer experience on this planet, because life is short, right? You know, and all we've got is our own experience of it. So if we can make peace with that and be at peace with ourselves, you know, that's where happiness comes from. And it's not being happy all the time, it's not smiling all the time, but it's learning to be at peace with life, be at peace with yourself. But yeah, I mean, for me personally, in my own journey of healing my relationship with food, it was a long journey, you know. I know there's like some slip-ups along the way, but it was really learning to be okay with my body, learning to allow myself to eat all those foods I was telling myself, no, you shouldn't eat. You know, learning to feel it in the body, learning to not make myself sick after I've eaten things that I just don't feel good in my body. learning to feel what it really feels like to be with those foods that don't feel good. Because inevitably, if you can learn to feel that, you'll come to realize, okay, that doesn't feel good. I don't want to eat it. And then sometimes you'll eat it and that's okay too, but you won't be like binging on it because you've been depriving yourself. So yeah, I mean, mindfulness, I can't recommend it enough. I go on and on about it. Yoga is a funny thing because, you know, that's something you can become. It's a super helpful practice. For me personally, it helped so much in grounding into my body and developing a healthy relationship with my body. But I know it's something, you know, people it can be like, you know, if you go towards a fitness aspect and just doing it all day, every day, you know, in an attempt to lose weight or whatever. I mean, there are better ways to lose weight, really, than yoga. But if that's what you're going to do under the disguise of doing something that's good for you, I mean, the only one you're kidding is yourself. And only you can look after yourself, really. We've got to learn to look after ourselves and love ourselves because nobody else is going to do it for us. So in conclusion, love yourself and love your being, and I send so much love out to you. May you live at ease and at peace. And be happy. Tell yourself,